Am I the antagonist for telling my future sister-in-law to go back to the trailer park you came from? My younger brother Owen and his fiancée Ellie are not speaking to me and are on the verge of uninviting me from their upcoming wedding in August. This happened all the way back in December, but Ellie still holds a grudge and has brainwashed Owen from talking to me and other members of our family. He has become super distant since their relationship began too. It was about 9:30 p.m. on Christmas. My nephews were crying and rambunctious. My mom was getting flustered with the endless cooking, people were getting drunk and being loud, and my husband was extremely intoxicated and getting on my last nerve with his attitude and jealousy. I just was at my wit's end. Ellie comes over to our table with a plate of dessert in her hands. Obviously seeing that I'm flustered, doesn't ask me, "Hey Natalie, I can see you're stressed. Do you need anything?" as all she did the whole day was cook an appetizer, set a few plates, and take care of my brother who drank too much. Meanwhile, I was cooking, cleaning, and setting up with my mother since the morning. My brother is always late, and she doesn't encourage him to speed up or anything. She eats the dessert that I spent so much time cooking. Doesn't say, "Natalie, these pastries are amazing." So I said, "Hey, must be easy being a guest 3 years into knowing our family immediately." My brother comes in drunk trying to tell me off, and I explained why I was upset at her for just being unhelpful. Ellie rudely said, "What are you talking about? I can't enjoy a holiday." Then I told her, "You can enjoy it, but at least act like a member." She walked away from me, and I just snapped and said, "You know what? I bet this was a lot better than holidays with your family from what Owen told me. You should just go back to the trailer park next year, and you can lay around whenever." She does not actually live in a trailer. If she did, I feel like that would be rude. I just said that because I had a rough night and she rubbed me the wrong way. I implied that she was trashy just because of her upbringing. She has spent every holiday with us, as her family is a complete mess and she hasn't spoken to them in years. She is like the third generation to grow up without a father. The woman who raised her is living off Social Security and poverty in old age. And just a lot more. I must have hit a sore spot. My brother had a long conversation with me the next day. I haven't really spoken to them. I tried to apologize, but I just don't know what else I can do to make this right. You were angry at your husband and your brother, and took it out on your future sister-in-law for no reason. So, your husband and brother were both too busy getting drunk, but you decided to target Ellie instead of them. If Ellie holds a grudge, it's probably because you haven't actually apologized for your crappy behavior. Am I the antagonist for not telling my mother-in-law we were eloping? I, 35 female, have been with Max, 38 male, for 17 years. Max's family don't much like me, never have, though I used to really make an effort to fit in because family is important to him. Years ago, Max asked me to marry him, and we started planning for a proper wedding. My dad, old-fashioned as he was planning on paying for the bulk of it, and we had a lot of fun coming up with things we'd like to have, a fairground carousel and one of Dad's famous BBQs, for example. Then his mom started giving me lists of who to invite, 150 people neither of us knew, telling me of dietary requirements she knew off the top of her head, and both she and his sister started trying to get me to go dress shopping with them in a place where everything needed a corset to wear it and a mortgage to buy it. Eventually, we scrapped the whole thing after we had a huge row when he said it had to be in one of 6 locations, pre-approved by his mother as capable of accommodating the needs of the vast tribe of cousins she was inviting. Fast forward 10 years to last year and we lost my dad in a terrible accident. Afterwards, Max suggested we get married. He said it would give us both next of kin security if something should happen to the other, and seeing what happened to my dad made him realize how fragile life was. Neither of us wanted to open up the same can of worms as last time, and seeing as it was just the paperwork we needed, we worked out the cheapest elopement we could. We told no one. The only people who knew were the 2 friends who came and pet sit for us for the weekend, and my sister and her husband, who let us stay in their house and gave us a lift. We decided to send texts to family, and then make a Facebook post afterwards to let everyone else know, and to explain that we'd have a fun party at a later date. My mom claimed she had already guessed, and her response was about bloody time lol. Max's mom went nuclear. She rang him, sobbing hysterically he had taken this away from her, calling him selfish for stealing the opportunity to plan the wedding. His sister took the phone then, yelling he had no right to do that to them and not tell them personally. We later established that although they had had the same text as all the other family, they had ignored it and learned when they browsed Facebook. He tried to explain we'd literally just signed the paperwork and would be having a party at a different date, but she hung up. His aunt rang me, screamed I was a home-wrecking whore, then hung up. Max's uncle, Max's mother's brother, the only one of his family he talked to regularly anyway, said not to worry. It was only a matter of time before the Harpies chose him for their annual drama, and our friends are puzzled as to why the planning would have been anything to do with Max's mother anyway. But it's been a full year. He's still being ignored, not even a Christmas card, and we haven't had the party yet because he wanted them to join. So I've been wondering, were we actually assholes to elope without telling her? Not the antagonist. Your wedding, your choice. With all the drama, sounds like you made the right choice. If your in-laws don't come around, then it is their loss. Plan the party, invite the Harpies, and if they don't come, it is all on them. Am I the antagonist for being depressed about my pregnancy? I used to be a very physically fit collegiate athlete and was very vain about my appearance. After getting pregnant with our first baby, my body changed and I've kept on about 15 pounds a year after birth compared to my pre-pregnancy weight. My firstborn is about to be a year old and we found out I'm pregnant again. After finding out I'm pregnant again, I lost all motivation and became depressed. I didn't want to go exercise, go for walks, even do housework. I'm a stay-at-home mom because everything felt so futile. The last time I became depressed in life was very similar to this. I still do dishes daily and take out trash regularly, and we clean the whole house together on the weekend and have voiced my depression with my husband. My husband spent 2 hours of tonight unloading on me, screaming how disgusting I am for my zero self-control because of me saying how unhappy I am with my body, but refused to do anything about it. He works out twice a day and that's the bare minimum. He also let me know how much he hates that I slacked on chores at all, and that I supposedly only get things done when he's around to watch our child, which is pathetic because he can just ignore them and get everything done no problem when I go out of the house for a few hours to run errands or get some time to myself. That I need to stop comforting our child because they're too attached to me. I should let them cry for hours because that's what he does. That's what his parents did, and we don't want a weak individual when they grow up. Also, if I can't find motivation to better myself in the next 6 months when I'm supposed to give birth, then I should expect he's going to divorce me or have an affair. Now, I fully admitted during this intervention that yes, I was being lazy because of the depression. And yes, I would absolutely make the effort to do better, especially to set a better example of a functioning adult for our child. I'm more caught up on that my husband openly told me he loves me, he'd never cheat on me, but in the same breath let me know he will if I can't get over my depression during pregnancy. Oh, and by the way, during my first pregnancy he would regularly call me baby fat purely for the fact that I was literally just pregnant. I was told countless times while pregnant how small I was by women I worked with. You couldn't tell I was pregnant when you saw me from the back. He would casually mention how he missed my six-pack abs while I was so ballooned up in my 3rd trimester I couldn't put my own shoes on. He still makes comments about my body not being the same, and I agree it's not, and it won't be for a long time because I'm about to go through pregnancy all over again. He also divulged to me that despite his initial happy reaction, he's not ready for a second baby with me, even though he told me to stop using my birth control method so we could try again. He's had issues with infidelity before. So am I the antagonist? Prioritizing your partner's wellness means supporting them through struggles, not tearing them down. You deserve respect and support, not abuse and neglect. It's clear that leaving this toxic situation may be the best choice for you and your children's well-being. Consider seeking support outside of this relationship. You are not the asshole in this situation. Am I the antagonist for telling my stepbrother he doesn't have the right to pressure me into being adopted by his mom? Starting with background, my parents were best friends for many years and were never in a relationship. But in college they had a drunken one-night stand and I, 16 years old, and the result. They didn't try to make a romantic relationship work but stayed friends, and I was always told they loved each other, but they weren't in love with each other and they made a great team of parents for me. I was one when my mom went missing. She had some mental health issues and nobody knows what happened to her. She's a missing person still 15 years later. Her parents, siblings, and my dad never gave up the search for her, and they still hope we'll find out one day. I grew up very close to my maternal grandparents and aunts and uncles. My dad stayed close to them too. My dad met my stepmom when I was 4 and married her when I was 7, after living together for a year since I was 6. My stepmom had a son 2 years older than me, my stepbrother. He never knew his dad and does not consider my dad to be his dad. I don't consider my stepmom to be my mom either, but I do love her. My stepmom asked to adopt me 3 times. Once after the wedding, another time when I was 10, and then when I turned 16. I said no to the adoption each time. My stepbrother has taken so much offense on his mom's behalf for this. He told me his mom has been raising me and treating me as her son for 10 years now, and longer really, and I should let her adopt me, and I should let her have that level of legal connection with me. He told me it makes her feel like shit when I reject her in favor of a missing woman I don't remember, and who could have just chosen to leave me behind for all any of us know. He told me I was an ungrateful brat and I act like I'm a petulant 6-year-old and his mom deserves better. I argued that I could say the same about him being adopted by my dad. He told me he made it clear to my dad from day one he didn't want him to be his dad. I asked him why it was different for him and not for me. He said because my dad doesn't live in anyone's shadow. We argued a few times about this, but the last time was a few days ago, and my stepmom was there and I fired back that my stepbrother doesn't have the right to pressure me into being adopted by his mom. My stepmom got upset and my stepbrother called me a dick. I found out after this that my dad never knew that my stepmom had asked to adopt me. He was also upset that I was being pressured into this. My stepmom said I was rude to my stepbrother. My stepbrother told our half-siblings and they're upset about the whole thing too. This has become such a mess, and my mom's family have been insulted in all of this too, and I hate it all. But am I the asshole for what I said to him? Your stepbrother is totally immature, lacks emotional awareness, Only his opinion can be correct, and is a bully. Your stepmother overstepped by asking you without informing your father or including him in the discussion. Now that your dad is aware, hopefully he'll handle the situation as you're still a child. I am really sorry for you and I hope things will get better. Fiancée's family embarrassed me for my skin tone at our engagement. I and my now fiancé, 28 male and 28 female, recently got engaged after 7 years of being together. We got through a lot together and we have always supported each other to become better and have finally gotten engaged. I'm from an Asian country and unfortunately, colorism is still a big issue here. My fiancé's family are all very fair-skinned, whereas I'm a little towards the wheatish, dusky side. That said, my skin is clear and glows, thank you skincare, and I'm in excellent shape, not shredded but a physique which could be considered muscular and lean. I am a little over 6 feet tall, which was my saving grace as the family looked at that as a positive. I run a successful technology company and make very good money for my age. All in all, my fiancé loves me, and I love her, and I take good care of her, she can attest. All in all, I have all the necessary requirements of a good son-in-law and an amazing husband, which is why they even agreed to our engagement in the first place. Here comes the problem, and this has led to a lot of fights between fiancé and her family, but they for the life of it cannot get over the fact that I have a darker skin tone. They constantly made snide remarks about how my skin tone is an inferiority. I am sure most readers from or near my region know which country I am in at this point. They even went on to mock my height, comparing me to a tree. They're all relatively a lot shorter. And I've always ignored them. My fiancé goes gung-ho on them and I just pull her back because I cannot be arsed to dwell about those comments and I don't want to sour up their relationships. My in-laws still kinda exhibit behavior that they could have found a fairer groom for their daughter. Things hit the fan during our engagement. I had invited my closest friends, family, some work friends, and people who I vehemently respect and look up to. Her side of the family thought no one would tell me, but post-engagement, almost everyone I invited told me how her side of the family couldn't stop pitying my fiancé for choosing to get engaged to me, and that she could easily found a fairer skin-toned having man for herself. And that flipped a switch. They even went on to say things as to how my best friend would have been a better match as he has a much lighter skin tone than I. I felt heavily and utterly embarrassed and spat on. I had been ruthlessly shamed in front of the most important people of my life. My family, my childhood friends, their parents, my mentors. That flipped a switch in me. I've so far controlled my very blunt and straightforward nature as I understand it can be rude sometimes, but I'm going to meet her family again in a few days as me and her are flying out to another country where we completed our education, settled, and work. I have no interest, and it's shown in my facial expressions, and I really want to go ham and confront these people, so that at the very least, they will know not to repeat it. I'm requesting advice on how to proceed. How shallow are these people? The best thing you can really do is get through the wedding, and then reduce contact with them, and only invite them to your house on your terms. Be assertive and set the rules that they can only visit if they behave themselves, and don't let their outdated opinions get in the way of your happiness. My parents have removed me from their will and inheritance due to the fact I greatly enjoy traveling. I am in a long-distance relationship with my girlfriend, 25 years old. That is going quite well, and she is a lovely person. This post is not about that topic, but it does serve as background info. My parents have always been extremely anti-travel, and have never traveled except for social obligations such as a funeral or a wedding. Whereas I love traveling, it is the main passion or hobby in my life, and I have been to multiple countries, mostly in Latin America, but I've also been to Europe too. Every time I have traveled internationally, we go through a whole song and dance of my parents barraging me with conspiracy theories, threats, passive-aggressive behavior, and more. They believe with every fiber of their being that us citizens are immediately kidnapped and disappeared the moment they step off a plane. They even think this about Americans visiting Canada or the UK. Any and all attempts of mine to show them their views are wrong are flatly ignored. When I traveled to Europe, they reacted by refusing to communicate with me for 3 months. When I traveled to Latin America previously, they did the same, but they also called the police to send a police officer to my house to convince me to not go on vacation. After my trip, they sent me long emails about how the fact that I travel causes us to have health problems, and it is your fault for being a bad son. I tried my best to ignore these behaviors and keep the peace. As well, they'd leave an inheritance for me with a life-changing sum of money whenever they pass away. I simply continued to travel and not tell them of my plans. My most recent trip was to meet my long-distance relationship girlfriend's family in South America. I had no plans to tell my parents, but she insisted of being presented to my family via FaceTime. The FaceTime call had the reaction I expected. My dad was cool, my mother was rude and offensive, and said mean things about my girlfriend's family due to their nationality. My folks went no contact for a number of weeks and hit me up to inform me that I have been removed from their will, that I am no longer welcome to visit them, and that they will not attend my wedding if I get married in the future. They said they will donate the inheritance to political causes they support instead. My girlfriend is adamant that I do something to restore the relationship with my parents. However, I have no idea how to accomplish that considering my folks' hardline stance. And the fact that I, as a 33-year-old man, refuse to be bullied by my family to abandon my passion in life. Ignore the money and create your own boundary. They will get nothing, no contact, no visits, no updates unless they can behave. Your parents don't have a travel problem, they have a control problem. Odds are very good they like the drama and will circle back around in 6 months or so. Do absolutely nothing until they make their next move. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.